Hey, Lucas Lobato here, and today's video it's all about shutter speed. It's the second video on the Photography for Beginners series that I'm creating here in the channel. So if you haven't done so yet, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and without further delays, let's dive into it. Do you know when you press the button to take a picture and there is a clicking sound like this? One of the things that is responsible for this noise is the shutter opening and closing inside the body of your camera. And by opening and closing, it allows the light to hit the sensor of your camera and produce the image. How long the shutter stays open is what's going to dictate how much light the sensor of your camera will receive. So let's think about it a little bit. The faster the shutter speed, the shorter the time that your sensor is going to be exposed to the light. So the image that you're producing is going to be a little bit darker if all the other settings are the same. The opposite is also true. So if you're using longer exposures, the image tends to be brighter if the other settings are kept the same, because the sensor is going to be exposed to light for a longer period of time. Of course, the amount of light it's also controlled by Aperture. I created a video here on Aperture. I'm going to link here on this card, and I'm going to put the link on the end of this video as well. Okay, now we know what the shutter speed is. In terms of practical use of the shutter speed, we will need to decide basically if we want to freeze the scene or if we want to create a sense of motion. Let's say you are on a sports event or you were a wildlife photographer, and usually the things that you're interested in those kind of events happens really fast. So you will need faster shutter speeds as well, because the idea is going to be to freeze that moment and kind of try to get the image as sharp as you can. On the other hand, if you're taking a landscape or seascape, when you want to get a smooth texture on the sea to kind of create a sense of movement. For this scene, you're going to benefit a lot from using slow shutter speeds. The same thing applies when you're trying to take a picture of a waterfall and you want to create that beautiful smooth texture on the waterfall. You're going to need shutter speeds of seconds, or sometimes, depending on the scene you're shooting, you're going to use even minutes. This is the reason why these shots are also known as long exposure, because you're exposing the sensor of your camera for a long period of time. For this particular type of shots, you're going to need a solid base such as a tripod. And that's really one of the limitations on using long exposures. You need a solid base to prevent motion blur on your pictures. Camera shake happens usually when we're holding our cameras and trying to take long exposures or shots with slow shutter speeds, and it's caused by our own micro movements, and it will interfere with the overall sharpness and quality of the picture. A rule of thumb is to use a shutter speed that it's at least 1 divided by the effective focal length of your lens. And notice that I said effective focal length. Let's say for this is a full frame camera. It's a 5D Classic Mark I. So let's say that I'm trying to take a picture and using this lens here. It's a 17 to 40, and I'm using the 17 focal length here. So as the rule of thumb on this one here, I'll be able to get sharp images using 1/17th of a second on this camera here. As the shutter speed doesn't go like that, I'll probably have to use 1/20th or 1/15th of a second. However, if you're using, let's say, the 17th camera that I'm using to record this video, I know that this camera is a cropped sensor camera, and the crop factor is 1.6. So if I'm using the 50 millimeter, the effective focal length of this lens on this camera is going to be 85 millimeters, which means that I need to use shutter speeds that are faster than 1/85th of a second for this particular combination. Of course, this is just a general rule, and it depends on the equipment you're using, how comfortable you are, or how experienced you are with your cameras and your lenses, and the fact that many cameras, lenses, they already have some sort of image stabilization. You can use slower shutter speeds, but that's just a rule of thumb, just so you can start. To illustrate the concept of shutter speed, I took 3 shots using nothing else but my hands and my camera. And I set just a timer here on 2 seconds each for each one of the shots. And I set my camera to aperture mode so I could have control on the exposure, okay? So let's jump into Lightroom to see the results. So these are the 3 pictures that I took to show the comparison between 3 different shutter speeds. You will notice here that I have the information of the particular shot. I'm gonna just scroll on these 3 ones here. I'm gonna select one by one here. So you can see here this one was 1/25th of a second. You can see that there is a little bit of details in my hand, but there is motion blur. This one here, it's 1/8 of a second, and once again you can see that my hand is visible, but way less than the previous shot. And this one here is 0.4 seconds, so on this one you barely can see my hand. So this is just a simple example. You can probably do that at home, just to illustrate the different results that different shutter speeds will provide you with. So there you have it, guys. That's all that I have for today. I really hope that you enjoyed the video and learned a little bit more about shutter speed and how to use shutter speed. So I'm gonna create another video about ISO, and well, that's all for today, guys. I will see you on the next one.